My mother told me to abort my child, so my sister could have her moment first. I've never been so calmly furious in my life. The words hung in the air after I put down the phone, a toxic vapor that seemed to stain the walls of my own home. I had to sit down, my legs suddenly unsteady. How does one even process such a directive? It wasn't suggestion, not really. It was an expectation, delivered with the cold certainty of someone who believed they had the moral and familial authority to chart the course of my life and my wife's body, to suit another's fragile timeline. My name is Thomas. My wife, Clara, is the steady, loving center of my world. We're both 32 pragmatic dreamers who build our partnership on a foundation of mutual respect and careful planning. We've been together for 7 years, married for 3, and the decision to start a family was not made lightly. It was spreadsheets and savings accounts, discussions about parental leave and career trajectories, dreams whispered in the dark about names and first steps. When the pregnancy test showed positive 4 months ago, it was a triumphant culmination of all that work and hope. We wept, we laughed, we held each other for a long, silent time, feeling the seismic shift in our future. Telling our families was the next joyful step. Clara's parents are warm, effusive people. Her mother shrieked with delight. Her father hugged me so tightly I thought my ribs would crack, and they immediately began talking about baby blankets and nursery themes. It was pure, uncomplicated joy. My own father, Robert, a man of few words but deep feeling, clasped my shoulder, his eyes bright. A grandfather, he said, as if testing the weight of the title. I liked the sound of that. My mother, Vivian, was initially all smiles and congratulations at the family lunch we hosted. She hugged Clara, asked about the due date, and everything seemed normal. It was a performance, I realize now. A mask she wore until she could get me alone. The call came a few hours later, after the dishes were done, and the happiness still buzzed in our veins. Clara was resting, and I was idly looking at stroller reviews online. Vivian's voice was stripped of its earlier warmth, replaced by a brisk, businesslike tone that set my teeth on edge. Thomas, we need to talk about this pregnancy. Seriously. She didn't wait for a greeting. I've been thinking, and I don't believe it's the right time for you and Clara. The disconnect was so vast, I almost laughed. Mom, what are you talking about? This is a perfect time. We planned for this. What followed was a barrage of arguments that felt copied from a generic reasons to wait pamphlet. Finances were tight. They weren't. We'd been aggressively saving for 2 years. Our careers were too demanding. We both have senior positions with excellent benefits and flexibility. Clara as a project lead at her architectural firm, me as a design director at mine. The who will watch the baby dilemma, a problem we'd solved months ago by getting on a waiting list for a highly recommended daycare near my office and interviewing 2 backup nannies. Each point I rebutted seemed to irritate her more, as if my preparedness was an insult. You're not thinking of the bigger picture, Thomas, she insisted, her voice growing strained. Then paint it for me, Mom, because from where I'm standing, the picture looks pretty great. What is this really about? The pause on the other end was long and heavy. I could almost hear her rearranging her thoughts, choosing her weapons. When she spoke again, her voice was lower, conspiratorial, dripping with misplaced sense of tragedy. It's Amelia. You have to understand what she's going through. She and Ben have been trying for over a year. She had it all planned. A pregnancy this year. A baby by next spring. She's fragile. This news from you will crush her. She needs to have this first. It's her turn. Can't you and Clara wait? Let her have her moment. The world narrowed to the cold plastic of the phone against my ear. Her moment, my child, a living, growing hope, was being framed as an inconvenient spoiler in my sister's life script. Amelia, 2 years my junior, the sun around which my mother's universe had always revolved. Our childhood was a masterclass in uneven dynamics, where a scraped knee from me was met with a walk-it-off. A pout from Amelia summoned cuddles and cookies. If I had a school achievement, it was a footnote. If Amelia participated in a play, it was a Broadway premiere. She learned the power of tears and tantrums early, wielding them with precision to get toys, attention, privileges. I learned to disengage, to build my own world elsewhere. Our relationship now, at 28 and 30, is a hollow shell. We exchange pleasantries at Christmas and Thanksgiving, follow each other on social media with the disinterest of strangers, and feel a mutual relief when gatherings end. There is no love lost, because there was never any love planted to begin with. Let me make sure I understand this, I said, my voice now eerily calm, the fury settling into a deep, frozen lake within me. You are asking me. No, you're telling me to ask my wife to terminate a planned, wanted pregnancy because Amelia hasn't gotten pregnant yet and her feelings might be hurt? Don't be so crude, Thomas. It's about family harmony. It's about sensitivity. If you barrel ahead with this without considering her, you will tear this family in two. Is that what you want? The projection was breathtaking. She was the one holding the knife, and she was accusing me of wanting to draw blood. There is no family to tear apart if this is how it operates. I replied, what you have suggested is monstrous. It is so far beyond the pale that I am going to do us both a favor and pretend this conversation never happened. Do not ever mention this to me again. Do not say it to Clara. Bury it. But she couldn't let it go. Her voice rose, pleading now, weaving a tapestry of Amelia's supposed anguish, the negative test, the disappointment, the planning that hadn't borne fruit. My impending fatherhood was painted not as a blessing, but as a targeted act of cruelty. I finally just uttered a flat, okay, and ended the call. It wasn't agreement. It was a full stop, a period on the chapter of my life where I entertained her delusions. I sat in the silence for 10 minutes, then took action. I blocked Vivian's number, her social media accounts, every vector of contact. Then I called my father. I didn't sugarcoat it. Dad, Mom just suggested that Clara and I terminate our pregnancy because Amelia wants to have a baby first and might be upset. The shock on the other end was palpable. He stammered. Then his voice hardened with anger I rarely heard. She actually said that? Thomas, I am so sorry. That is unconscionable. I can't even. He took a breath. You focus on Clara. I'll handle your mother. She won't bother you. True to his word, for 4 months, there was radio silence from my mother. They were the most peaceful, joyful months. Clara glowed. We found out we were having a boy, and began calling him by the name we'd chosen, Leo, making him real in our conversations. We painted the nursery a soft sky blue, assembled a crib, and allowed ourselves to be simply wholly happy. My father checked in weekly, his updates carefully omitting any drama from his home, always ending with, "How's my grandson today?" When we felt ready, we made a cheerful photo-filled social media announcement. The flood of congratulations was heartwarming. I knew it would reach Amelia. I didn't care. Our joy was not contingent on her emotional state. The doorbell rang 3 days later, on a Saturday afternoon. I was packing a hospital go-bag for fun, while Clara napped. On the doorstep stood Vivian and Amelia, their expressions a synchronized mix of hurt and defiance. I didn't move to let them in. "We need to talk," my mother said, her chin lifted. "No, we don't," I replied, but Amelia brushed past me, and Vivian followed. They settled on our living room sofa, as if holding court. Clara, woken by the voices, appeared in the hallway. I caught her eye and gave a slight shake of my head. Understanding. She retreated to our bedroom, closing the door to protect her peace. You couldn't even tell me to my face. Amelia launched in, her voice quivering with a theatrical tremor. I had to see it online with everyone else. What am I to you, Thomas? The audacity was stunning. I opted for brutal, unvarnished truth. What are you to me? You're someone I shared genetic material with. We are not friends. We are not close. We haven't had a meaningful conversation in a decade. You would not have called me first if you were pregnant. We both know that. So why this performance now? My mother cut in, her tone that of a weary peacemaker. Thomas, that's enough. The past is the past. We're here now. We're family. We want to be part of your life, part of the baby's life. Can't you just forgive and move forward? A cold laugh escaped me. Move forward? From you suggesting I kill my child to spare Amelia's feelings? There is no forward from that. You made a choice that night, a horrific one. You don't get to pretend it didn't happen because it's now convenient for you. You need to leave. I will decide in my own time if I ever want to address this. That time is not now. Then Amelia shattered. The performative anger melted into something raw and ugly. She curled into herself, sobs racking her frame. It was a startling, genuine display of pain. Vivian pulled her close, glaring at me over her daughter's head. Are you happy now? Look what you've done. She stroked Amelia's hair and spoke to me, her voice low. She was diagnosed. Unexplained infertility. The doctors say it's very unlikely to happen naturally. She found out just a few weeks ago. And then you flaunted your pregnancy online. It's been a double agony for her. She realizes now how broken things are between you, and she wants to fix it before it's too late. The information landed like a stone in my gut. A wave of genuine sympathy washed over me. No one deserved that pain, that loss of a dreamed-of future. For a moment, I saw not my spoiled sister, but a woman drowning in grief. It changed everything, and yet it changed nothing about the foundational rot of our relationship. My voice softened, but my resolve didn't. Amelia, I am truly, deeply sorry for your diagnosis. That is a terrible burden. But my sympathy for your situation does not rewrite our history. It doesn't erase what was said. My priority, my only priority, is Clara and our son. Her stress levels, her well-being are paramount. I do not have the emotional capacity to manage this. I gesture between all of us right now. I need you to leave. I will think about everything, and I will contact you when and if I am ready. It was a clear, firm, and I believed fair boundary. But to people who have spent a lifetime disrespecting boundaries, it was a declaration of war. They didn't move. The sympathy on Amelia's face curdled into resentment. You're using your wife as a shield, she accused. You're just selfish. You always have been. My mother stood, her own mask of conciliation falling away. You are holding a grudge like a child. Thomas, you are actively choosing to deprive your son of his family. What kind of father does that? Amelia nodded, her tears now angry. A selfish one, a narcissist. You're going to poison your own child with this bitterness. He'll grow up without an aunt, without his grandmother. It will be your fault. That was it. The line. They weren't just insulting me. They were weaponizing my unborn son, prophesying a future where I was a villain in his story because I protected him from their toxicity. A red-hot rage, clean and sharp, replaced all other emotion. Get out of my house, I said, my voice deadly quiet. Now! They stood their ground, shouting over each other. You need to get over yourself. You're destroying this family. You'll regret this when you need help. The noise finally pierced the sanctuary of our bedroom. The door opened, and Clara emerged. She looked pale, one hand resting protectively over her belly. Please, she said, her voice tired but firm. You need to leave. This isn't good for anyone. Seeing her there, drawn into the fray, her peace shattered, was the final catalyst. My mother was mid-sentence. Only trying to save this family from your pride, Thomas. I looked directly at Amelia, my gaze unwavering. At least I can have a child, I stated, each word a deliberate, ice-cold shard. And you're only here now because you can't. You want to play aunt, to hover and pretend, because it's the closest you'll ever get. It's pathetic. I turned to my mother, who was gaping at me. And you? You are a failure. You had 2 children. You turned one into an entitled, empathy-devoid black hole of need, and you systematically alienated the other until he built a life 1,000 miles away from you. I swept my arm around a tense, ugly scene in my living room, is your legacy, your masterpiece of motherhood. The effect was instantaneous and total. All sound died. Amelia's face went blank, then crumpled in utter devastation. My mother's mouth worked, but no sound came out. She looked as if I'd physically struck her. The raw, unvarnished truth of it hung in the air, ugly and undeniable. Without another word, they turned and left. My mother slammed the door, so hard the frame shook. The silence that followed was thick and ringing. Clara came to me, wrapped her arms around my waist, and rested her head on my chest. "That was brutal," she whispered. "I know," I said into her hair, the adrenaline draining away, leaving a hollow ache of remorse. "I know it was. I'm sorry you had to hear that." "I'm not," she said, pulling back to look at me. "I'm sorry they pushed you to say it. But I'm not sorry they heard it. They needed to." The days that followed were a mix of regret and grim resolution. I replayed my words, wincing at their cruelty. Targeting Amelia's infertility was a low blow, a strike below the belt. But I also replayed their words, their actions, the years of skewed dynamics, the abhorrent initial suggestion. The remorse was for the specific weapons I'd chosen, not for the fact that I'd finally fought back. My father called, his voice heavy. He confirmed my words had landed with nuclear force, but he said, "I can't condemn you for it, son. I saw the push. I've seen it for 30 years. A week later, the war went public. Coordinated, dramatic posts appeared on Vivian's and Amelia's social media. Vague but damning. When family shows their true colors, heartbroken by cruel, unforgivable words from a brother at my most vulnerable, a mother's love is rejected. And for what? Pride. They were masterpieces of omission, painting themselves as pure victims of my unprompted malice. The family grapevine ignited. My phone blew up with text calls and messages from aunts, uncles, cousins. Some were furious, calling me a monster. Others were confused, asking if it could possibly be true. After a long talk with Clara and my father, I decided to respond, not with emotion, but with facts. I crafted a detailed, chronological post. I stated plainly that the hurtful words I'd said were true. I own them, but I prefaced them with everything. The initial demand to terminate the pregnancy, to spare feelings, the 4 months of silence, the uninvited ambush, the insults hurled at me and my parenting before I'd even begun, the refusal to respect a simple request to leave. I didn't ask for allies. I simply presented the full, unedited script of the play, not just a final, shocking act. The shift was dramatic. Supportive messages poured in, many from family members apologizing for their rushed judgment. The public sympathy for my mother and sister evaporated, replaced by awkward silence or private messages to me acknowledging the impossible position they'd put me in. Within a few days, their posts disappeared from social media. The battlefield was empty, but the scorched earth remained. Then, a private message from Ben, Amelia's husband, a decent man I'd only ever exchanged pleasantries with. "Thomas, Ben here. I read your post. I've only been hearing one side for weeks, and it was eating at me because the version I was hearing didn't sound like something anyone would just say. Your version, it adds up with things I've seen. I'm sorry. For all of it. She's not well. The diagnosis broke something, and your mother isn't helping. She's feeding the anger, making it worse. I'm trying to hold things together, but I'm just tired. His message was a window into a collapsing world. I wrote back, brief but kind. Ben, I appreciate you reaching out. No apology needed from you. I'm sorry you're in the middle of it. Wishing you strength. I kept his confidence, a small raft of decency in the whole mess. Weeks passed. The focus returned to Leo, to Clara, to the quiet, expanding joy in our home. I took my own post down, deciding the spectacle had gone on long enough. The truth was out. Punishing them further seemed unnecessary. Their own choices were punishment enough. My father's call last night brought the final update. His voice was gravelly with exhaustion. It's over, Thomas. Ben has moved out. He's filed for divorce. He told me he couldn't live in the echo chamber of resentment anymore. Amelia's back here, full-time. It's volatile. Your mother is on crusade, blaming Ben, blaming the doctors, blaming fate. And yes, he sighed deeply, she still mutters sometimes about how it should have been Amelia having this baby, not you. The bitterness has consumed them. I felt profound, weary sadness, not for the loss of a relationship with my sister that had died long ago, but for the human wreckage. For Amelia, whose grief had metastasized into something that destroyed her marriage. For Ben, who had tried and failed. For my father, a good man trapped in a house of echoing misery. And even in a distant, complicated way. For my mother, whose toxic love had ultimately failed to protect her favorite child from profound unhappiness. "Are you and Clara okay?" he asked, his concern a lifeline back to what mattered. "We are, Dad. We're more than okay. We're happy. Truly." "Good," he said, the word carrying the weight of his hopes. "That's your job now. Protect that. Protect your family. You're going to be a great father." "Thanks, Dad." After hanging up, I walked into the nursery. The evening sun slanted through the window, illuminating the rocking chair, the neatly folded stacks of tiny clothes, the mobile of stars and planets waiting to spin. Clara was there, not folding clothes, but just sitting in the rocking chair, her eyes closed, a soft smile on her face as she gently swayed. Her hand was on her belly. I knelt before her, placing my hands over hers. A strong, definite kick pulsed against our palms. Leo, this was my family. This quiet room, this steady heartbeat under my hands, this woman's peaceful smile. This was the epicenter of my world. The chaos, the drama, the bitter words and shattered relationships. They were storms on a distant horizon, threatening no one here. The door to that past was not just closed. It was sealed, with the weight of my choice and my responsibility on this side of it. I had everything I needed right here, in this pool of golden light, waiting with a love that was already boundless as sun, who would soon fill this room with his own new story.